of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I'd like to welcome you all to the second episode of the Qazwini Brothers podcast. We'd like to thank everyone who's been tuning in and joining us. My name is Sayyid Muhammad Rida Qazwini, and with me today is my dear elder brother, the knowledgeable Sayyid Jawad Qazwini.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, dear viewers. Thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to be here and spend some time with you. I also would like to thank the brothers and sisters who have submitted their questions ahead. And be sure that we will be taking those questions inshallah today. And for those who DM'd their questions, as far as if we could have taken your question, then or we could have seen your question on time, then your question will also, we'll try to answer the questions from the DM as well. However, what I would like to add briefly just before we get started is if you can ask your question publicly, I would like you to do so, because there are people who are putting the same exact question in the comment section, and there are others who are DMing those questions. And we have very limited volunteers that are able to read the DMs, get your, and then filter those questions, send those questions to us. So please try to save us some time when it comes to do that.
Today we're going to be discussing pet ownership, Sayyid. According to a survey conducted by the American Pet Association, over 67% of American households own a pet. So this is not only a relevant topic, but something that's going on right now. Today we'll be talking about several main points. We'll be talking about the discussion regarding pet ownership in Muslim households. We'll be talking about hadiths regarding pet ownership. We'll be talking about the effects of pet ownership on children. We'll talk about kindness to animals and animal rights. And we'll be talking about dogs as pets. And finally, we'll end with the discussion of exotic pets. So let's start off, Sayyid, by talking about the first point here. What do you think of when it comes to the discussion of having pets in Muslim households? How do you think it starts off?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وآله الطاهرين. I believe that, like you said, the numbers of individuals who own pets living in the United States is very high. More than half the American households, according to what you just told us,
right,
have pets at home. So when kids go to school, growing up, they end up talking to their parents about having pets at home, owning pets at home. In fact, a lot of the questions that we got today of people DMing us, telling us that we want to have pets, especially dogs. Inshallah, we're going to be talking about that.
Right.
At home, is that allowed? Is that not allowed? Our kids are really, driving us crazy wanting pets. So I think it's a discussion that people end up having with their children early on, and parents usually will refuse.
Right.
That's just usually how it is with people in our community, I think.
Yeah.
Because one, they probably, their children are probably enough headache for them. They're a hands full. They're occupying their entire time. So they really won't be able to make time for pets. Number two is probably lack of space. I mean, a lot of people don't have, they live in limited space in smaller homes, and it's just good enough for them to occupy them. And usually you feel very bad if you have an animal inside the house that's, in a cage 24/7.
Right.
Further, I think, is people thinking of the expenses, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I have 3 kids, 4 kids, 5 kids, or even 1, and I have to spend on them.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be bringing another 2 or 3 pets, and that's an extra expense.
Definitely.
So parents usually end up really focusing on the cons and not the pros of of asking themselves, is it really worth it for me to spend that extra money and time, bring a pet at home, and because of the fact that it has amazing effects on my child and my child's psychology and their upbringing. So I think that's how the discussion ends up starting in Muslim households.
Yeah. Well, I'd have to agree with that. You know, I grew up watching a cartoon called Clifford. It was about a big red dog. So I just always wanted a dog at home, and obviously for many reasons I was never allowed to have one. Right now we own a bird, a beautiful cockatiel named Polly. We love him. Everyone at home loves him. He loves us. And so kind of getting to experience how owning a pet feels. What are some hadiths regarding pet ownership?
There are many hadith. I mean, as you know, we have the biggest hadith encyclopedia, and for the followers of Ahlul Bayt in Shia Islam is a book by the name of Bihar al-Anwar.
Right.
Or another book called Wasa'il al-Shia. Those are, I mean, Bihar al-Anwar is 110 volumes written by Allam al-Majlisi. Obviously, not all the hadith in Bihar al-Anwar are meant to be valid or real traditions, accurate traditions. However, it's Allam al-Majlisi just gathered all the traditions.
Right.
So you will find an entire volume that basically talks about horses.
Mm.
You will find an entire volume that talks about sheep and cows. You will find an entire volume talking about, you know, how to treat pets and animals, because, you know, people had a much bigger interaction with animals.
Correct.
You know, up until what, 300 years ago?
Right.
And that has slowly deteriorated, right?
Definitely.
So if you're looking at hadiths from 600, 700, from publications from 600, 700 years ago, obviously they're going to give a lot of importance to animals because they existed in people's lives. If you're looking at hadiths from Imam al-Sadiq's time, from Imam al-Baqir's time, from even, you know, the end of the 3rd century, you're going to see imams and scholars really talking about animals because they were part of people's lives. So there are many hadith. I'd like to categorize them, if I may, in a comprehensive manner. One is a very simple question. Is it recommended for us to have pets or not? That's one of the questions that was asked of us as well. And the answer is yes. So if the answer is yes, what kind of pets are recommended? We have many ahadith that speak of, for example, ducks, that speak of chickens and roosters, that speak of cows, that speak of sheep, that speak of horses, that speak of the red pigeon. But if I were to put all the hadith next to each other, I would say they would be the following. Number 1, sheep. Number 2, cow. And number 3, the red pigeon.
Okay.
But like I said, chickens and roosters, horses, ducks, those are all part of the pets that are recommended in Islam and owned by the Ahlul Bayt. In fact, a person went to Imam Sadiq. I was just seeing this hadith yesterday, and he sees all those red pigeons and they seem like maybe they were disturbing the guy. So he tried to probably take them out of the room, and Imam Sadiq said, leave them, do not disturb them. إِنَّهُ يُؤْنِسُنِي. You know, those animals, being around those animals, it does not disturb me, you know.
Gives him joy.
It gives him joy.
Yeah.
Third category of a hadith that I would like to talk about is what kind of blessings do animals bring into our lives? That's from a hadith perspective. I will share my own personal experience and thought later on. But it says that those animals, for example, if you have a sheep, if you have cow, if you have chickens and roosters, then they bring barakah into your life.
Ahadith are many that tell us if you spend on a pet, an animal that you own, it's as if you are spending sadaqah fi sabilillah.
Wow.
So a lot of people think that, I'm going to be spending $100 a month, or, if you have a lot of animals or you have animals that need special care, you may be spending $2,000 a month. And this is a decrease from my finances. And that is not the case. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran states, every dabba, every living creature on the face of this earth comes with their own rizq. That's how it is for people having children. I have one child, I don't know if I can afford another one. I have two, I don't know if I can afford a third child. Allah says they come with their own rizq. Their barakah will enter your life immediately. We even have, for example, about female children, those who are, girls born into the family, they even come with more rizq than boys. So animals serve the same way. And we have a hadith in regards to that. We will probably take a look at some of them later on. The other category of a hadith that I would like to talk about as well is, what are the benefits of having an animal? According to a hadith, it's that once we spend on those animals, once we care for them, they will repel evil from our family members. And if evil were to inflict anybody, they would be the barrier.
Right.
And that to me by itself is
It's a
amazing.
form of insurance, basically.
Islamic insurance or spiritual insurance or
Insurance
godly
policy,
insurance.
yeah.
Yeah. So those are some ahadith I wanted to share about owning pets. What are some good pets to own and whatnot, and we can take a look at other points that
amazing, insightful to hear about what infallible people had to say about owning pets or any subject for that matter. So that was really good insight. And animals were regarded as tools for a century, and just they began humans began domesticating them, and now they're part and parcel of our life, just like family members are. There's been research about the benefits of owning pets when it comes in relation with children. So there was a research done by Porsky and Hendricks. Those are two American psychologists in 1989. And it proved that pet ownership provided young children with many benefits, including tactile stimulation. So when they pet the animal, it feels good, it helps them with their sensation. When they watch the pet moving, it teaches them how to crawl and eventually walk. And most importantly, it teaches them about unconditional love and acceptance. Because this animal looks at you and it doesn't judge you, it doesn't put you down. Our animals accept us for who we are. They love us unconditionally, and they're always going to be loyal to us. So this teaches the children that how they should interact with their family members, with other humans, and even animals as well. And it's proven to teach children, how to be gentle, how to be calm, how to be generous with what they have, feeding the animal, giving them toys, so on and so forth. And then one also amazing thing is, obviously, kids learn nonverbal cues better, because animals can't talk to you, but you could tell when they're sad or hungry, or so children will start to develop the knowledge for nonverbal cues, looking at someone and just knowing, oh, if they're sad, maybe I should comfort them. So tell us a little bit about what you think the benefits of owning pets are in relation to children or to people in general.
Very good point. I think that I've read many articles about how interaction with animals helps a person's emotional and psychological state of being.
Right.
Meaning there are people who are suffering from depression, there are people who are suffering from loneliness, and for whatever reason, they are away from their families. They cannot, for example, keep in touch with their families. They have lost their families. And pets really come to their rescue. A pet changes their life. A pet takes them out of this dark state they're in. And a lot of psychologists actually recommend this for
Depressed people,
anxiety. For people who have anxiety. So this is a proven form of therapy. Spending time with animals. Usually it's dogs. I have read and I would like the brothers and sisters to search about the therapy that now they're doing with horses.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, just being there around them will change your state of being.
Wow.
And there are many articles, and I have read many articles about this issue. How does it affect a child, though, and even adults? I mean, I was never able to spend time with animals until I realized their importance and how they can affect a person. And once I did, and I realized how beautiful this world was, I realized that sometimes you even prefer to spend time with your pets versus real human beings.
Right.
Because they're always honest.
Mm-hmm.
They're always kind. To us they're harmless. We enjoy them, and they enjoy us. Look at this bird that we have at home right now. It wants to. It's a little bird. You would think, oh, it's just a little bird, but it wants to kind of go from one person to another person, make sure that she's been
to everyone.
and it's just a very small bird that's So anyways, I want to say that it teaches children that there is goodness out there in the world.
Right.
God has created those beautiful creatures so we can enjoy them. So, we can share this love with them.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly have seen and I have heard people that have pets that will tell you we would rather spend time with them than other people.
Definitely.
And what was the job of the majority of prophets?
Yeah, they were shepherds.
They were shepherds. I'm sure they were spending time with sheep, cows, dogs,
mm-hmm.
and all sorts of animals. And
Definitely.
and I feel that once you're out in the suburbs, once you're out in nature and spending time with animals, you really have a better chance of reflecting, thinking, spending time just by yourself,
Mm-hmm.
contemplating.
Yeah. That's, we've been talking about the positives and of owning pets and talking about it in a positive light, but we do know that there's obviously problems like pet abuse, and that's an evil and vile thing. It happens though. Some people abuse animals, abuse their pets, and I think that's the lowest of the low, hurting defenseless creatures. And I know there's definitely guidelines in our faith on how to interact with animals and how to be kind towards them. Can you shed some light about what guidelines are set forth when it comes to our interaction with pets and animals?
Yes. Indeed, I think, it's true that if you look at a Muslim society versus a non-Muslim society, you will find that in a non-Muslim society there are people who own pets, more pets, than in a Muslim society or a Middle Eastern society. Those owners can be and how they abuse those animals and how terrible they treat them. So what does Islam have to say? You know, if you own an animal, do you get to treat it the way you like and you get to abuse it the way you like? Absolutely not. You know, we have a tradition that I love. I mean, I have read it so many times. It's a long tradition that talks about the fourth Imam's experience going to the pilgrimage, Imam Zain al-Abidin. And Ali ibn al-Hussein ibn Ali, who is, by the way, I am certain that we have people outside our madhab of the Shi'i madhab, watching and tuning in, maybe people outside the religion of Islam. So we know that those 12 Imams are Imams to us. To us they are infallible, but to our Sunni brothers and sisters, they are respected scholars and figures in Islamic history. So, you know, that's what we have in common, and that's why we feel that it is important for us to connect those individuals, connect ourselves to those individuals and how they taught us.
Right.
And who better than the family of the Prophet who were learning from the Prophet, and for example, the son of Imam Hussein. So he goes to the pilgrimage 25 times, and they ask him, and he was so kind to his she camel. He owned a she camel. And he would praise this she camel. He would say, oh, this is a good animal. I have been to the pilgrimage 25 times on her back. So one time they saw him, and she was slow, maybe she was not obedient. So they say to him, you know, Ya Zain al-Abidin, why don't you whip her?
Right.
Let her move. And he says, I have the whip. Don't think that I'm missing a whip. I don't have a crop.
Yeah.
But I wonder, should God treat me the same way every time I want to whip her? If I slow down, should I get whipped by God?
Wow.
By the ultimate king, by the ultimate honor? And the answer is, oh, of course we don't want that. So I don't want that upon that which I own, that which I control, that which I seize. Look at the amount of discipline. By the way, and a camel would not feel the whip. I mean, it would be like a little tiny touch,
Right.
compared to, you know, if you just, but even that was not used by the Imam. We have a very beautiful, mesmerizing, touching hadith from from the story of the Prophet Moses. The Prophet Moses, when he went to meet with Allah in the 40 days,
Right.
that's also mentioned in the Quran, he had a lot of discussions, right, with Allah. He spoke to Allah. You know, how are they doing? And God says they are in punishment.
Wow.
And Musa is very surprised, and he says, why would they be punished? They were amongst the very few people who believed in me. And God says, this person mistreated a cat. They trapped a cat for, you know, it's a long hadith, I'll try to summarize it, until the cat starved to death.
Wow.
And they are being punished. That's God, what God said to Moses. And he asks then about a person who wasn't religious, wasn't a practicing believer in Moses. And God says they are enjoying, you know, my bounties and my compassion and my mercy. And obviously Moses was surprised again.
Right.
How is this possible? And Allah says that because this person, in the middle of the night, on a rainy, cold day, saw a cat that was not able to move. Maybe she had, you know, hurt herself. She was limping. She couldn't move. So this person basically took out their outer garment. You know, maybe they were wearing a coat or a jacket. Put this cat inside that garment. Took the cat home. Treated it. Took care of it. And you know, you don't realize, but animals also pray.
Definitely.
And they are innocent, you know, creatures. And you know, we would be very it would be very unwise of us to think that their prayer is not accepted. Right. In fact, let me just share a beautiful story with you very shortly. They say one day, one of the kings had a table of food, And on that table of food, they brought out quails. So
Delicious.
he was sitting with somebody who had become his one of his members of the armed forces. But prior to that, this guy was a thief and a gangster. So when they brought out the quails, he started laughing in front of this king. And the king said, "Why are you laughing?" He said, "Because I remember one day I stopped a caravan and they were begging and pleading for mercy. He did all sorts of bad things to them." And he said, "In the end, before I killed the last person in the caravan and took everything that they had away from them, they looked at those quails that were walking. And they said to the quails, 'Be a witness to Allah of what this person is doing to us.'" And the quails were probably just walking and looking. And I'm laughing that this idiot, this guy, was asking a quail to be his witness.
And they're eating them, right?
And they're eating the quails. And you would not believe it, he was the closest person to the king, his right hand, his aide, and the king immediately said, "Get him up and sever his head."
Wow.
So animals do pray. Animals do have a
Right.
consciousness.
SubhanAllah. I've never understood how people could abuse animals. That's like the lowest of the low. There's actually studies that show that people that are violent towards animals are very, very likely to be violent towards humans in the future. I know there's a reverence for dogs in Islam. Like Ashab al-Kahf, the people of the cave, they had a guard dog, which was protecting them. And many other stories that you're more knowledgeable in regards to. There's a very, very important question we want to ask today, and everyone has wanted to ask this question. Everyone wants to own a dog, and they might not be able to. It's a polarizing question, right? There's people on two sides, yes or no, or in the middle. So when it comes to owning a dog as a pet, what's the rundown on that?
So basically, the Holy Quran speaks of this animal, and let us look at the ayat, and then let us look at some hadith, and then we'll try to draw a conclusion. However, from a fiqhi perspective, from purely a fiqhi perspective, I will be discussing this issue in the contemporary Islamic law series, or a series dedicated to law, because this obviously is a show or a podcast,
Right.
that will be watched by family members, people who are not maybe as familiar with Islamic law, as familiar with how detailed examination works. So we will try to make this a little more fun, not as dry, but once in one of those episodes, I promise my viewers that I will be talking about this whole concept.
Okay.
Why is it that some scholars believe dogs are najis, and the vast majority of the Shia scholars, and why is it that some schools believe it's not najis? Within the Shia school of thought, and the followers of Ahl al-Bayt, are there scholars that differentiate between dogs and them being najis or not? That's something that we will discuss, inshallah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in chapter 5, Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse number 4 says, يَسْأَلُونَكَ مَاذَا أُحِلَّ لَهُمْ قُلْ أُحِلَّ لَكُمُ الطَّيِّبَاتُ وَمَا عُلِّمْتُم مِّنَ الْجَوَارِحِ مُكَلِّبِينَ تُعَلِّمُوهُنَّ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, amongst the food that you're allowed to consume is the food that you hunt. So basically they used to hunt animals, and the animal falls, let's say it's a bird or whatever it may be, or a deer, and the dog then runs, you've seen this on TV, then the dog runs and holds that animal down, and the person then goes and sacrifices the animal by saying Bismillah, or by putting them towards the Qibla and whatnot. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then allows them to consume the ones that died before the person arrived. So the dog is holding this animal, and you get there and the animal's dead. Let's say it's a bird. You say Bismillah and you shoot this bird or you shoot this animal, and by the time you get there, it's dead. This dog is holding it down. So Allah here recognizes the dog being an aid in hunting for human beings. By the way, let me tell you this. Hunting in Islam is haram and it's forbidden. You cannot hunt or kill animals for pleasure like they do in the West. Going out hunting, killing animals and not eating them. We are only allowed to hunt as much as we eat, as much as we need in our diet. So if we need, for example, 2 fish, that's how much we have to fish. If we need 1 sheep for the next 2 months, that's how much sheep we can kill. And similarly, inshallah, we will be talking about that in a later discussion. That can we consume animals all the time? Can we keep on slaughtering animals and eating them? And the answer is no. Inshallah, we'll speak about that in another episode. So here, the Mufassirin, the scholars talk about a certain dog called al-kalb al-mu'allam or kalb al-sayd. The dog that has the learned dog, or the dog that follows instructions. So when they define this dog, they say it's a dog that, when you tell it to come, it comes, go. When it sit, it sits. Basically a dog that has been taught to behave around human beings. And this particular dog, has its own set of rules. And we will talk about that. And another ayah, in chapter 7, Surah Al-A'raf, verse 176, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مَثَلُهُ كَمَثَلِ الْكَلْبِ إِن تَحْمِلْ عَلَيْهِ يَلْهَثْ أَوْ تَتْرُكْهُ يَلْهَثْ. There, the example of some people, according to the Quran, the example of some people is like dogs. If you behave friendly towards them, they will keep on hurting you. They will keep on barking. If you are an enemy to them, they will keep on barking. This is an example that has been used in the Arabic language that we need to understand. It still does not put down this animal. What do I mean? The Quran is saying, how when dogs are happy they bark? But when they're sad, what do? They still bark.
Yeah.
When they are hungry, they bark. And when they are happy, they bark. Their bark is different. They act different. When they are angry and when they want to attack, they still bark. But there's different barking, obviously. So Allah has not really, belittling the animal, this animal that He has created. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is belittling those people that, whether you're good to them or bad to them, whether you're kind to them or you're not, then they still treat you bad. And obviously the most important verses that speak of dogs in the Holy Quran is chapter 18, Surah Al-Kahf, the cave. The dog is, I think, mentioned 3 times in Surah Al-Kahf, but I have chosen 18:18. وَتَحْسَبُهُمْ أَيْقَاظًا وَهُمْ رُقُودٌ وَنُقَلِّبُهُمْ. Allah speaks of the 7 sleepers of the cave and how their dog protected them, how their dog was their best friend, how their dog, basically, they took this dog with them that, they escaped the city and this dog went around with them and he protected them, and this dog's important role in their lives and in protecting them, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would then mention the dog, وَكَلْبُهُمْ بَاسِطَ ذِرَاعَيْهِ بِالْوَصِيدِ. And their dog was the one that sat there protecting them the whole time while they were in the cave. Which is a praise, obviously, to this animal. Now we have, when it comes to the fiqhi perspective, let's talk about that a little bit. And obviously, like I said, we'll elaborate on that if we have fiqhi discussions. Is a dog najis or tahir? Some scholars say the dog itself, in its innate nature, is najis. Now, why is that, a downgrade to the... No. the blood in our veins is najis, but does that mean it's something bad? Other things that I don't want to mention now are also najis.
Right.
From a human's body, but not all of them are bad. You know? So that is also something that we need to talk about in a different setting. Some people believe it is only the saliva. Some scholars, believe only it is the saliva of the dog that is najis and not his body or the rest of the dog. And some scholars believe that the hair of the dog and the nails of the dog is tahir, if it's not wet. So, for example, you would think that we have a complete consensus that a dog is najis, but we don't. In fact, the Shaykh al-Saduq believed that this dog that is disciplined, that is domesticated, that goes out for hunting with his owner is tahir. That's one of our scholars. So we will talk about that in the episode that we will be talking about the fiqh jurisprudential laws.
Okay.
And obviously, at this stage, nobody can or should follow Shaykh al-Saduq and their opinion and say, well, I have a dog and it's tahir. You follow, your marja, you follow the guidelines. We don't want to create this
division.
No. What I want to say is, as soon as you start basically telling people what's in books or other opinions of scholars and what have you, they ultimately think they have to now stop following their current scholars. That's not what I am trying to promote here. So basically, having a dog.
Right.
Let's talk about that. We talked about the ayat now. We talked about some jurisprudential laws. Is Islam against dogs? Absolutely not. In fact, you and everybody and most people have heard the famous hadith that Imam al-Hussein went to one of his gardens, and there he had a slave, and he saw that the slave is taking a bite out of his food and then throwing one to the guard dog of the dog that was protecting the garden. And Imam al-Hussein stood there and he asked permission to enter. So the slave says to him, Ya ibn Rasulullah, this is your garden. I am your slave. This place belongs to you. Why would you seek permission? He says, no. After I saw what you had done to that dog, I freed you fi sabilillah. And I have made you the owner of this bustan. And today, I am coming to you as my guest, as your guest. Imagine how beloved that act of kindness to that animal was, that Imam al-Hussein ends up being so generous in return, and giving all that bustan away to, all that garden away to his servant. So I think that's enough said about dogs. Right. Can you pet a dog? Yes, you can. Can you have a dog? And if you have a big house and you have a large backyard, or you have a little dog house for that dog, is that okay? I don't see anything wrong with it, unless then you fall into problems of my kids are there's saliva on their shirts or their clothes, and they come home and they want to, if you can go through the discipline of changing your entire outfit, doing tahara in the areas that need to be tahara, and all the rest of the headache, then be it. Other than that, I recommend that you try to take another animal as a pet that will not come with so much limitations.
Correct.
In fact, even if a dog was tahir, I want to say this, is I think they are the hardest animals to have, because of the fact that they get so attached, and you get so attached to them, and they're the human's best friend.
Right.
So losing them, it's like losing a family member,
right.
a friend, and they get so attached to you, and they're so loyal to you, that I think they really make life difficult. Even when you travel, I know dog owners that when they travel, they suffer because they're away from their pet, and the dog also suffers.
Definitely.
Yeah.
We've been talking about conventional pets, like regular pets that you would think of owning, dogs or horses or other animals. But let's talk about exotic pets. So there's this show on Netflix. Hundreds and hundreds of tigers, and there's a crazy fact that I read on the BBC that says that there's more tigers living in the United States than in the wild, which is obviously Africa and other places where tigers are native to. So when I think of that, that boggles my mind. You know, there's more tigers in the United States, especially being domesticated by these kind of people that are I just urge people to watch the trailer or read articles about that show. So when it comes to owning exotic pets, we know people have like gators, pythons, tarantulas, tigers, lions. What do you think about that? How do you feel about exotic pets?
You know, honestly, I have mixed feelings, to be honest.
Yeah.
I definitely saw the trailer for this show, and I think 2 episodes we watched it together because I wanted to have some insight on what's going on. And I don't like the show. I mean, I don't like the people in it. I think they are very abusive to animals.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, those animals need to live in the wild, right?
Right.
It's what, you know, this is very selfish, and I don't even know how it's legal. You know, some things in America are legal that are mind-boggling.
So it's actually easier to own a tiger in some states than owning a dog.
There you go.
So
You know, it's
crazy.
And within that show, and if you research, you will see a lot of people die
Right.
or they lose limbs because they basically interact with those animals.
Right.
Probably not the sole owner, but other people. Somehow something goes wrong, and you know, some person ends up getting killed or hurt. So you know, why would you want that? Why would you want to bring such pets in your home that will, number one, scare so many people?
Correct.
You know, imagine you have a tiger or a lion. Yeah, I assume that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Makes you look cool, but then nobody wants to come to your house.
Yeah.
I personally, I mean, I love lions. I just love looking at like videos of lions and even tigers. But I mean, I wouldn't want them as a pet for sure.
Right.
I think that they're more beautiful out in the wild. They're more beautiful being, you know, the king of the jungle.
God put them there for a reason.
Yeah.
I don't think they should be domesticated.
So I'm not sure if there's really anything cool about it when I really look at how, you know, what, you know, when you put the whole perspective with whole pieces of the puzzle,
Right.
I'm not sure if I find it cool anymore.
Yeah, and it's probably not the right thing to do in terms of maybe Islamically. I don't know. What's your favorite animal? Like, in general, not owning as a pet first, just generally, what's your favorite animal?
What's your favorite animal?
I would say the falcon. The falcon bird. It's very majestic. It's amazing. So there's these people that train them and they hunt, they fly and hunt. I'd love to own one, probably not going to happen, but domesticated animal, probably dog or bird, parrot, cockatiel, things like that.
My favorite animal, like I said, is the lion, but if I were to choose obviously, you know, that's just an animal, and the animal, he's the king of the jungle, so he's got to be a lot of people's favorite. But my favorite animal is the horse.
Okay.
You know, I love spending time with horses and just looking at horses. I think they're very majestic animals. They're blessed animals, even in the religion of Islam. You know, for example, we're going to be talking more about that in the episode where we talk about sports and living healthy. But you know, that's a sport that the religion of Islam, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Imams emphasized on this. You know, team with man plus horse, and I think that you know, that's something that we need to further read into those ahadith and into those traditions. For example, one of the most beautiful ahadith is from Amir al-Mu'mineen that says a horse has 2 prayers. One in the morning that says, "Oh Allah, increase in the sustenance of my owner." And like I said, you know, the animals' du'a is accepted.
Right.
I know some people who own horses and they tell me that, our rizq has changed. The first dua of the animal, of the horse, is increase in the rizq of my owner. And the second is make me more beloved in the afternoon, make me more beloved to my owner.
Oh, that's cute.
And, like I said, we have to talk about the du'as of other creatures, other creation of Allah, such as even the plants.
Right.
They have their tasbih as well. They have their glorification of the Lord. And inshallah, we'll talk about all those things in another episode. We do need to take some questions.
Yeah, let's.
That were from the audience. One was, I remember one, was about cat hair.
Right.
Sorry, let me see here.
Cats, can we keep cats?
Okay, I think people can still hear us and we're fine.
Yeah.
So the
People want to know about cats. It seems.
So let me just answer that. So cat hair.
Right.
Sayyid al-Khoi and the majority of the Maraja believe that if there's cat hair on you, you cannot pray with those clothes on. You have to remove the cat hair.
Mm-hmm.
However, interestingly, Sayyid al-Sistani does not believe in that. Sayyid al-Sistani looks at those hadith as like if you created a shirt out of cat hair,
Nice.
or something in those along those lines, where you had a cat rug. Yeah.
Nasty.
Then you cannot pray on that. But if it's just a couple of hairs of a cat on your shirt or your clothes or your prayer mat, then it's okay for you, according to Sayyid Sistani,
Okay.
to conduct that salah.